Go.
Alright. Hi guys, so we're here from Manta Dive. We're here today to talk about photography and kind of what gear we use and then how we all got into it. So without further ado, we'll start with Dita. Introduce yourself, tell us what you use.
Okay, I'm Dita. I'm Indonesian. I live in Gili Air and Gili Trawangan. I've been here 8 years and I'm a dive instructor.
Hey, I'm Alfie. I run a page called Alpha Lunar Photography and I work with these guys. Yeah, I'm a full-time photographer. I make my living out of it. I'm based here at Manta Dive. And yeah, started out as a dive instructor and now this is my living. I'll tell you what I'm shooting. I'm shooting a Sony at the moment, Sony A7R3 with a 16 to 35mm f2.8 lens. But I didn't always start out like this, but I'll tell you guys a bit more about that.
My name's Alex. I'm a photographer from Australia. Been visiting Indonesia for the last 2 or 3 years, doing some diving with these guys. I work full-time as a photographer, mainly based in Western Australia on Ningaloo Reef. At the moment I'm shooting with the Aquatica with a Nikon D810 and shooting with a Sigma 15mm fisheye.
Nice. Alright, and I'm Jared. I'm from the US, from Oregon. If you guys know where that is, I doubt it. I work here as an instructor and I do part-time photography. Slowly I'll try to transition over into doing more photography, but I like teaching a bit too much right now. I'm using a Sony RX100 inside the Fantasy Housing with a couple of jaunt lights. Yeah. So, equipment. What have we got over there, Dita?
Okay, I'm using Sony RX100. I use this camera since Mark 1. So I've been on the Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 4 and now I use Mark 5. I like this camera so much, I can show you the inside. It's like tiny small camera. Yeah, you can see the size is super small. And then I use Nauticam. I love this housing so much and then easy maintain and then easy to use. Yeah, I like to use small camera because I like to dive in the current. So small camera is super handy for me, and then RX100 give good quality, big sensor. So I think maybe I'm one of the first person who use RX100 in Manta and then share the love now.
You got me to do it.
But the video is a 4K video, isn't it?
Yeah, and then the video is already good quality, 4K, the autofocus is good, quite fast, and then for wide angle I use the wet lens, so I just in, out, and then 1 second I can get the wide angle. So I use this just for the practice. Maybe the quality is better the big camera, but I do this, it's easier. And then I don't use light most of the time. I use natural light only.
So are you shooting more shallow then?
No, with the setting manual white balance you can go quite deeper. I think I go like 30 meters without any lights. Yeah, but the sun is
You
not
just
as
manually
bright.
white balance underwater.
Yeah, I do manual white balance every shot because like you facing the sun, you facing sun behind you is gonna give different lights.
Yeah.
So
And one of the cool things that we have that these guys can't actually do is we can switch our lenses underwater. So he has a wide angle lens on his,
yes.
which he can even pop on and off. So if he wants to go in for a macro shot, you can switch over to that, pop the wide angle off, pop it back on if there's a shark cruising by. So it's quite nice. What I've got on mine is a macro lens. It's a plus 18. It's actually a plus 12 and a plus 6, and I joined them together. Yeah. So I could pop this off if I saw something maybe a bit bigger. So if I want to shoot a turtle, pop this off really fast, pop it back on if I find a nudie branch or a shrimp or something that I want to take a photo of. It's quite simple, quite easy. Yeah, Alfie?
Yeah, I shoot, like I said, I shoot the Sony. This is mine, the Sony R7, 7R3, more like it, with a 16 to 35. It's very important though, like I didn't start out with, a lot of people ask me what gear I have. I didn't start out with this gear. I started out with a Canon G1X Mark II compact camera, smaller than that one, and I did great photos with that. Eventually I upgraded and now I'm shooting this. But I think when it comes to gear, what I say, a lot of people ask me, I think all of us, what gear do we use, what gear do we use? Yeah, Dita has a good quote, you know, improve your skill. Well, am I
Improve your
stealing
skill,
your
not
line?
your gear.
So I'm stealing a line there, but that's your quote. But it's so true, guys. I did great photos with a smaller camera. I think better gear only allows you to make more mistakes, doesn't allow you to take a better photo, really. Just a more margin for error, I would say. But yeah, I shoot this. I have the Nordicam housing. I use a glass dome, quite nice. I shoot one strobe. I don't shoot more than one strobe for various reasons, but if you shoot certain subjects, I would definitely advise 2 strobes. I'm a big fan of the Yaunt lights. Ones I use here is 8000 luminance. They are really good. I'll have 2 of them. I like the soft lights. I even shoot my portraits of people underwater with video lights if I can. And if I really need something stronger, I throw one of the strobes in there.
Do you think if we went to like your Instagram page, could we see a difference from when you got this camera versus your old one?
I think for someone with a really good eye, you can see the difference slightly, but overall, if I shot with my previous camera, which was a compact camera, which I always shot in RAW, even for the compact, and that I have to say with these cameras, you can shoot RAW, and the files was quite good. Like I said, if the conditions is good, you just really need to know, the margins you can shoot in with a compact camera is way less than the margins I can shoot in with these ones. So if I shot in really good conditions and I use the settings as the camera can shoot it correctly, the photos I got is really good. It would be hard to say the difference from some of my previous photos. But I do get, how can I say,
You get a nicer image.
yeah, I get, ratio-wise, I get more shots that's high quality.
Yeah.
I can use more of my shots with these cameras than I could with my previous camera.
It also allows you to develop your skills a little bit more.
Yeah.
So obviously you've been shooting with one camera for a long time, and then you upgrade. What you can now do with these these high-end cameras is incredible. So you can then explore a little bit more, try different techniques.
What did you start with, Alex?
Oh man. So I think all of us started pretty basic. And like Alfie says, I get asked all the time, what camera setup did you start with? How did you start out? Like I had this little, $100, $200, 5 meter waterproof tough camera. I think the first one I broke is because I sat on it. The second one I broke, it flooded, snorkeling. And this was in Melbourne, that's where I grew up. So I wasn't snorkeling around with all this amazing marine life. I was trying to find a single fish with this little camera. But obviously that's where I fell in love with it. I moved towards a GoPro, just for filming, doing some burst photos. I used to love sitting in the waves. And then I eventually moved to a setup very similar to Alfie's first setup, was the Canon G16 with one of the fantasy housings. I love that camera. Obviously I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but I was shooting every day, before work, after work, I'd be, in the water. But obviously knew, okay, that's what I really wanted to do. It wasn't until I actually got some money that I could actually progress a little bit further. I started out after the Canon, I went to Nikon, because a lot of my friends were shooting with these Nikons, these D800s, D7000s, and we would sort of try each other's cameras. We'd had a Nordicam housing and a Quadica housing. Eventually I went out and bought a D800 with an Aquatech. So we don't have an Aquatech housing here. Aquatech are quite good for shallow water stuff. A lot of people use them for shooting surf. All my photos, or vast majority of my photos, are taken freediving using natural light. So the Aquatech housing was really good for that. I've recently
Lighter than this
Oh
one.
man! So the Nikon D810, it's quite a big housing, or quite a big camera. Sorry. So with these Aquatechs, they're still quite small. So this is also a D810 housing. It's quite large. That doesn't bother me at all. I've recently switched to the Aquatica housings because I do a lot more scuba diving now. I also got one of these Icolite strobes, using a little bit more lights underwater. So it's just, I'm absolutely in love with this housing, you know, because I've recently switched. I was always shooting the D810 with the Sigma 15mm fisheye. Now with the housing, I've got access to all the buttons, with the strobe. I'm just getting some really different shots, you know.
So we're turning you into a diver. Not
Slowly into a diver.
Back into diving.
I still love my free diving.
Never hold your breath.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I can show you guys what the camera looks like.
Yeah, let's have a look.
And that's a full frame camera.
Yeah, full frame.
And I think one of the biggest advantage of using this big camera is if you want to go like Alex. Alex have many shot half,
Yeah.
which
Split
is
shots, yeah.
yeah, split shot, which is like when you use like my small camera and then my tiny dome, it's super hard to get half
Yeah.
above the water, half underwater. But with big 8-inch, 10-inch, or you can get like the 12-inch, I think it's easier to make like
But
half
split shot also fisheye.
Yeah.
Fisheye. Like
Yeah.
I shoot the 16-35 like I said. Can also do split shots with this one. But maybe
Yeah,
1 out of 10 where Alex will probably get 1 out of 5 shots, I would say, with his. So
If
for
you,
split shots, think about the fisheye. If you shoot people, I prefer, which I shoot a bit more than Alex do. I like my portraits and stuff underwater. I prefer the 16-35.
Yeah. This like if you've ever seen my photos before, you know that I love split shots. So yeah, that big dome, obviously a lot easier to get that split, that water line along there. I mean, if you could get bigger, the better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can still do it with the other lenses. I mean, I used to even try with a GoPro in that burst mode. I mean, you need really nice conditions, but
flat water.
yeah, with this fisheye and the D810, I mean, the focusing is so good that it's you know, if you get nice conditions and you work at it, you get a lot of shots that don't work, but you also get those ones that are really nice.
But if I ask you guys, do you get the fisheye? I'm not quite aware. Do you get the fisheye wet lens?
No.
You can.
It's wide angle, but it's not a fish eye.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the problem, you can get like many different brand of the wide angle wet lens, but the limitation of the lens, the camera lens, it make it more vignette. So it's not looks that natural.
One thing that I struggle with split shots is that with the wet lens, the water fills
There
up
is a
on the inside
water
of the
in
lens.
between the housing and the lens.
Yeah, so you get
Yeah.
this telltale line right in the middle of the shot if you're not careful. So you have to kind of go really fast down, start taking your shots.
But
Go fast up.
Yeah.
what helped me a lot when I shot gear that wasn't, well, I didn't start out with this gear like I said, like none of us did, but it helped me to think a lot, you know? When you get gear, you just have to think a bit more, but you can still get the shot.
Yeah.
You can still get the split shot, you can still get the macro shot, you can still get your portrait shots. You just have to think, and that I think makes you a lot better photographer. Like I said, if you started out with with a GoPro and you end up with this, then obviously
And I think
you think a lot more about your photography. It makes you a lot better.
Yeah.
one thing that helped me a lot is learning fish. You never know what fish are going to do until you've been down there and you've tried to film like a trumpet fish 30 times and you fail every time. And then eventually, like, you learn, okay, this is the pattern that it's going to move in.
It's gonna be like that.
So I know, okay, it's going to dart down now, that's when I want to take my photo. So like learning fish, I think it's a big part of it,
Yeah.
which helps with the GoPro. When you have a simple camera, you don't have a choice but to like really start thinking about what they're going to do.
And the only way to do that is to spend more time in the water. You know, it doesn't. You can. I've seen it before. People with really fantastic gear, like incredible setups, and they'll jump in the water, and you can tell they haven't spent a lot of time in the water. Doesn't, you know, just because you've got really good equipment isn't always going to give you that great shot. So it's just getting experience, being comfortable in the water. Reading the animals is massive. I think whenever I try and teach photography, I always explain to people how animals tend to react or how to read an animal. Using free diving and using natural light, you tend to always have to put yourself in a position where you think the animal will be. You've already composed the shot in your head. I mean, it is quite easier with a fisheye because you know you're getting a fair bit of the animal in the image, you know. So,
But also, doesn't a fisheye, for instance, if you shoot fisheye, you also still need to know a lot, because you can have the boat in your picture, for instance.
Yeah.
The animals, so
Divers.
you get divers in your pictures if you shoot marine life. So you still, you have to think about your shot. You have to know
Yeah.
exactly how it's going to work.
Yeah.
So it makes certain things easier, but makes certain things difficult if you're not aware of it.
The other thing I always like to tell people is, so where I work in Australia, we don't always have 30 meters visibility. You know, you tend to have some days where it's 5-10 meters visibility.
But with fish eye, you can get close.
Yeah, so fisheye, so I photograph mantas, you know, almost daily when I'm in Australia. And with the manta rays, big animal. So to get that animal in the frame, you want a fisheye, in my opinion. So,
So hard. Yeah.
you know, if you go up really close, you can easily get the manta ray in the whole photo, but you've also reduced the distance between you and the animal. So the big thing about shooting wildlife is getting closer. So if you can get really close to the manta ray, you know, you've reduced that distance. You've also reduced the amount of particles in the water between you and the subject.
Well, once again, getting that close to them is like Jared said. You really have to know your subject.
Yeah.
Because I shot mantas with Alex a couple of weeks ago in Lemongan.
Yeah.
And the one thing I immediately noticed is just how much better he is at getting close to the mantas. He reads them so much better than I do, just for the fact that he shoots them every day. And same with Herb. Jared, I don't get his or Adidas. I don't get their videos. Not because I physically I can push the button, I can do the video, but I don't know the behavior as well as they do. And I think it makes a huge difference. I just noticed it with a subject like mantas, which is a huge subject. You think it's quite easy, but just the way Alex would read them compared to how I would read them, I still lack experience, even though I shoot every day of my life underwater. It's just a different subject. It takes time. And I just noticed it in the shots.
Yeah, and also like I like 100% of my time using a camera, I shot maybe 90% on video. So maybe 10% on the photo only. So with the video, you need the movement. You need to know, like sometimes already like this, and I'm thinking of the turtle gonna swim here, but I do this and then the turtle do here. So it's like, oh, where's my object? It's gone. So this is like knowing like one fin's already up, so they want to go somewhere. This is like, if you do every day, then you more know about the fish behavior in that area. And then this is more interesting because I base on Gili, but mostly I work around Indonesia. I go Raja Ampat, Komodo, Manado, Bali to make a video or guiding someone. So sometimes you go to a new area. Before you go, you need to do research first. What kind of fish, what kind of animal you're gonna see, and then what's the behavior over there. And then, like Alex says, probably the visibility is different. Like Alfie say, it's like the gear and everything.
That once again, that helps you guys with the wet lenses. You can change
Yeah.
underwater.
Yeah, because
it's
like
a huge difference.
most of the places, like it's not a studio that I bring a wide angle and then came up like a tiny pygmy seahorse. And but with this camera, it's like a whoop, whoop. It's easier, like Jared said. So for my work, for my job, I prefer small camera with the interchangeable lens underwater because it's like helps me to do both macro, medium shot, and wide angle. Yeah.
And for starting out as well, people who start out, most likely it's better to start out with.
Start small. Yeah.
I would start it with a Sony RX100 series. There's even cheaper cameras. What is the tough? One?
Oh yeah,
The Olympus Tough.
Master of macro.
The Master of Macro.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
That's amazing camera
Yeah,
for macro for
that
budget.
camera is amazing because Olympus Stuff is a waterproof camera,
Yeah.
and then they make a housing. So even you float, you make mistake on the housing when you install it, it's still a waterproof camera. It's good. I have a Canon D30. It's like waterproof camera
Same.
up into 25 meters, but I take to find Mola Mola in 40.
But that's a good question. What do you recommend people to buy if they're starting out? They've got a little bit of money to spend, but they can't go to those high-end mirrorless or DSLRs. So,
But should you go to that high-end mirrorless DSLRs though? I mean, if
no,
you
not
to start
if you're
out,
starting. No, I mean, I usually recommend people to be shooting like what these guys have. Fantasy
insane.
or a Nauticam with the Sony RX100.
And these guys, though, by all standards, their gear is fairly advanced. You can shoot.
Yeah.
You film for television with the gear you have, right?
Yeah, I filmed 2 times for TV, and then the quality of Sony RX100 for video you can film on S-Log2, which is that the same quality like this, only like different resolution. So I mean like it's more than enough for Indonesian TV, or I think in the most countries still more than enough, because with S-Log2 it's same like you take a video on RAW, and then for first time you use the S-Log2, you're gonna see like it's all flat, only like gray color, no color, no everything. But if you can color grading, it's amazing file. But the file is big, and then the software to run needs like 16 gigabyte of RAM, and then it's built up your other gear.
See, we were actually having this debate last night with my camera.
Yeah.
So we're shooting some like New Year's shots now with people back rolling into the water. And I was asking these guys what their settings were. They're shooting like aperture maybe 8.0, shooting at shutter speed 1/800, ISO, what was your ISO? So I grabbed my little guy here, the little Sony RX100. I was like, I think I can do this. So
Maybe
stay
we can
tuned.
try.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Maybe
try
we
it.
can
I'm
try.
gonna try it today.
Yeah.
And we're gonna compare. We're gonna see who can get the shot.
Honestly, when it comes to exactly what I mean is, I think that camera can get the shot.
I think.
All right, but you're gonna get 1 out of 20, 1 out of 15, 1 out of 10. Where Alex will get 1 out of 5, 1 out of 3 because you use settings,
Okay.
you know, your margin for error is just less. But you get,
What's your first shooting at? Huh?
I'm just
I'm gonna shoot
saying.
at 24 shots per second. I think I can get the shot.
I'm just saying. I know you'll get the shot. It'll take you a bit longer to get
We'll
it, but
see.
that's what I mean.
We'll see.
You have to think about it.
Competition tonight.
you know the good things by we all have here in Manta, because we all have like experienced diver with the camera. We have another people also, like we have another 4-5 guys who has a proper camera. So it built up like a fair competition. So if someone have a new idea, we want to
They all steal it.
yeah steal it. Is like I say,
Improve it. Okay.
like I say, Western world you have a copyright, yeah. But you in Indonesia we have the right to copy. Yeah. So sorry to say, but this is the fact. We have the right
It is
to copy.
good that everyone has their own style.
Yeah.
Everyone brings something different to the table. No pun intended. As well as that, you learn together.
Yeah.
That's the big thing that I learned. Like, I was shooting with my Canon G16 for a long time, and I thought I knew what I was doing.
And then you meet somebody.
And then I meet some other people with some good cameras, and I found, and I'm a big believer in this still, you learn together.
Yeah.
You can learn a lot online, you can learn a lot doing like tutorials and workshops, but whether or not you actually go to a photographer and say, I want to do a course, I want to do a workshop, or you hang out with like-minded people. You know, we sit down together, we sometimes edit our photos together. Sometimes we'll just like go through our equipment. How do you clean this?
Yeah.
How do you set up this cable?
It's true. And then I think like Alfie told, I came to Alfie, can you teach me about this? And then he said like, oh yeah, there's plenty tutorial in the YouTube. I said like, yeah, but it's plenty. Can I just sit next to Alfie when he's do editing? I think it works a lot, because
Yeah.
like he has his
when it comes
way.
to editing and stuff and how you would edit your stuff, which is a different topic, I find if you watch YouTube and stuff for certain things like that, you can watch it 5 minutes, you can go back and you can watch it again. But when it physically comes to the physical aspect of things,
Yeah.
I agree. Like,
It's better meet the guy.
you have to, yeah, it's just, it makes, because it took my progression, for instance, I saw a clear difference. The first year and a half of my photography was really just me working out of a dive shop, and I got some help here and there from people telling me about cameras, but I never really got to shoot with people. And eventually we met Alex and stuff, and then I moved to this dive center here, and I kind of, when I came, and then everybody kind of started. Detail's the longest in the business compared to us, I'd say. But overall, my progression just went up like that since we actually worked together.
Right.
And-
Alfie, biggest tip for a beginner. Biggest tip.
Oh, biggest tip for a
Starting
beginner.
out.
My biggest tip is improve your skill, not your gear. Because oh yeah, there's one thing you can learn yourself, and then takes like 100 dive to get a good picture. Some people already super smart, maybe takes like 20 dive or 50 dive. But if you go on like a dive center like Manta Dive here, you go on the person who do that every day, so you can do in 4 dive, and then he gonna teach exactly what he use, what camera setting he use, because I think setting, gear, what kind of lens you like, and then the body position with the marine life, this it's the one that not that easy to learn by yourself. So if I came to Manta, and then you can come to Manta and then say, okay, I want to do my photography course, can Jared teach me, because I really like his style. So it's easier for you. Then you can spend like another 2 months on your own, spend like 500,000 per dive, and then cost you more, rather than come here, do how long the photography course?
Usually we do it in 3 days.
3 days. Can you imagine you come 3 days, the day 1 you do blue picture, and then the day 4 you make amazing picture like what Jared did. So
But for me, it's great, guys. Yeah, I agree. If you ever come and stuff, improve the skill massively. But biggest step I have, you start out on your own. I would say is pick your background first. I think it goes for land photography as well, actually, but especially in underwater photography. You know, there's the basics. You always shoot up, and you always shoot up. Basically, gives you a better background. Gives you more odds of getting a neutral background. But your background makes your picture. You can have a very cool subject with a very mediocre background, which I mean is maybe a very flat, one-dimensional shot, and it doesn't quite work, even if your subject is cool. But if you have an awesome background, it can make the average subject look actually quite special. This is obviously, I'm not claiming this is my tip. I heard this from YouTube tutorials. I'm not gonna lie, I learned everything on YouTube.
YouTube Institute.
I wish I could credit the photographer who said that. The guy did an awesome speech on there. But that's my number one, I would say. Is you pick your background. I think it changes your whole photo if you get that background.
Yeah,
Sure, but you.
No, I agree with that. I think, I mean, there's a lot of different things you can tell someone who's just starting out. If they've just bought the camera gear, they're super excited. You know, don't expect the best photos straight away. You know, like, yes, on social media we'll put up our best photos on our websites and things like that. But essentially, you're coming back. Sometimes you'll come back from a dive and you'll have
You've got nothing.
nothing. So it's
And it happens.
yeah,
That-
don't ever get down because you're not getting the great images straight away. One of my first jobs in Australia was working on a tour boat, where I would go out with these customers and I'd be shooting maybe 400 to 600 photos a single day.
Yeah.
And I'd come home, I'd have to edit them and have them ready for the customers the next day. And I'd do this 5-6 days a week. So if you're doing that every single day, 500-600 photos a day,
You get your experience.
you're going to learn it really quickly. And I didn't realize at the time, but you look back after a year and you look at the images that you've accumulated. You also look back at your first day on the boat, how your photos were, how you edited those photos, and you go, wow, you can actually see the difference in how much you've learned, especially in the editing process.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at there is just spend more time in the water, you know what I mean? And don't just shoot underwater, because these cameras, you know, we all use them on land as well. I love doing wildlife photography above water, you know what I mean?
Alex
Shooting-
is a big bird photographer.
I love
for
shooting
you.
birds. I love shooting birds. But it's fun, you know, and it's a whole different learning process too.
Yeah,
And if you understand those settings too, you understand how to do a landscape photo, taking photos of birds, like, and then doing underwater. They all, you know,
Similar.
they're similar, and then you can take something for every shot. And then when you have that job or you have that moment that's happening really quick, you know, you'll have that moment underwater or above water that's amazing, and you want to know how to capture
Instinct.
it, like instinct. You know your camera well, that you can trust it. Don't go, you know, and panic and you come back and you've got, you know, video or photos that's out of focus. It does happen, but you want to be prepared, I think, for some of those moments.
Yeah, I would
Oh.
say, kind of like what Alex is saying, take more photos. If you're on a dive, take the 400, 500 photos. One of them maybe is good, hopefully. And then as you take all of those, you're gonna slowly like figure out, okay, I did this right in this one shot. Why? Why did that happen? And then you figure it out. From there,
Take
yeah?
time with that subject
Yeah.
and then review it. If you've got a diver who's also another photographer, that's great. Because then you can sit at the one spot together, take that shot, look back, see how you compose the photo, is all the lighting correct, and take it again, take it again. You might come back with 100 photos of the same subject,
Yeah.
but you're just looking for that one image. You know what I mean?
Actually, I have a really good tips of this. I think all of us have the same, yeah. Which is, for me, if Jared asks like what's the tip for beginner, it's like if we like the photography, we don't care about the end result. Just try to love the process. The process of making a blue picture until it came out like a color. This is the process. This is the process that I'm doing like the last 10 years. So I mean like sometimes we like getting a pressure that, oh, he make a good picture. Oh, I saw Alex picture, but like Alex said, maybe he has like 200,000 picture on his hard drive. You know, not the only one that he posts in Instagram, which is amazing. Alfie also do the same. Jared do the same. I'm do the same. So my point is, don't pressure yourself of should make a really good picture.
And it's important to know, like you said, you have to love it. It's also important to know when you see our Instagram, that's the base photo. You ask me if I go back in time and you look at my photos, can you see the difference? And for the vast majority of my photos with a lesser camera, you would. But we always pick the best ones to have on there. And for every that one that's on Instagram, I think there's maybe 50 to 100 I don't select to be on Instagram. So you look at those photos and you think, wow. But it is, you have to love it because we take hundreds and photos or hours of videos to get that. And I mean, a video especially, you literally have to wait till the marine life do what you want it to do, you know, or get lucky. And that takes hours, and hundreds of hours.
Some people see that our job, what we do now, is super good, super easy, super nice, blah blah blah. But can you imagine Alfie everywhere he go, he might have like 30 kilo on his back with his huge camera, diving gear, and then the other things. So I mean, like, if you don't love the job, it's gonna annoy you one day. So I mean, like, I really love the process, and then like even on the dive is probably like Alex says, like maybe 5 meter visibility. Like yesterday we dive, I normally dive 30 degrees water, yeah. Yesterday is 21. You know, like I really hate it. So that's the reality. I never post on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, but people see, oh, this is amazing, this is clear. Yeah, maybe if I put like a clear shot, it's like I take like last year, not now. You know, now it's like we just hang out in the land.
You don't put up the photos when it's really visibility, it's cloudy and stuff. So
Or maybe we should put. Maybe we should put. Okay, this is the
Day in the life.
normal of the diver.
we're selling the dream. You know?
Yeah, we're selling the dream.
But
yeah.
But no, I say it makes you think though, if you have bad conditions and maybe we do something else, okay, this is not great for this, we go shoot this. So we constantly evolve and think differently, and once again it helps to be together because there's always someone with a cool idea and interesting stuff. I did want to say one thing though, coming back to gear, is one thing about Sony and why I shoot Sony. Not that I think if you use the best Canon, the best Nikon, you know, end of the day, they're all really good cameras. I do like, for my gear, although you wouldn't say this looking at this, but the mirrorless technology gets smaller, okay?
But while your setting is become bigger.
This is the biggest setting you can have. You have to remember with the extended dome and everything. His setting is not even extended yet. So I just feel the technology in the end of the day for mirrorless is getting smaller, and my dream is to be able to shoot with a camera that size one day full time. The smaller the gear underwater, the better.
Yeah.
And like Dita says, anybody in diving knows it, man. If you're traveling with your dive gear, and then you have an extra Pelican case or two for
and extra money for the overweight.
And then extra money for the overweight. It's not a cheap game to get into. So the smaller you can start out with, the easier and the cheaper it is. And and it's just much more of a less of a hassle. So I definitely recommend starting.
Start small. Work
It's
your way
true.
up.
Trying to chase after a whale shark with this thing is
No.
not that easy.
What is the best budget housing you guys would say?
I'd always stick with these guys. Fantasy, the housing goes 60 meters, so it's deeper than I'm really ever going to go on a dive. And I've never had one issue. I've taken it on 400 dives. No fogging, no nothing, no leaks.
Buttons?
Buttons are fine.
I find cheapest housings if you buy. The problem is there's nothing wrong with cheap.
Button stuck.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with cheap housings, guys. I started out with a fairly cheap Nikon housing, which was great for all intents and purposes at the time. But if you go really cheaper housings, it's good to go mid-range if you can. Mainly the buttons.
Yeah,
the
buttons.
buttons get stuck.
Yeah, because
Even-
of the salt water make like a...
You have to take really
Yeah, I
good
don't
care
know
of your
what it's called,
housing
like-
super well.
The other thing too is how often are you shooting as well? Like I notice some of my housings, don't have any issues with, but I know I'm shooting with them every single day.
Yeah,
The buttons
that's why
are
it's
all
like
getting
pressed
pressed
all the time.
constantly. So if you are a photographer or someone who's only diving on the weekends, or you do the trip once a month, make sure you're taking good care of it, because that's when they start.
Make sure you press the button every day as well, like Alex. At
But-
home.
Yeah, it's something we probably.
We'll do another video. Yeah.
The flip side is though for that things we do shoot every day as well, so
Yeah.
we have more wear and tear.
Yeah.
We're average photographer. If you dive the weekends, it's really
Yeah, but I think on top of everything, on top of the housing, any brand you use, the most problem with the housing is human error.
Yeah.
Human error, forget to lubricate. There is a small hair, maybe not for Alex, maybe for Alfie, or small sand. And then I have like a tips is don't open your housing while you rush, like in the boat, or like you like, oh, I missed the dive, and that's where the problem came.
Yeah.
Like do a night before and then prepare, everything's nice, and then I think you'll be fine.
Alright, so thank you guys for joining us. We'll be making more videos in the future, maybe talking about taking care of housings, cameras,
Yeah,
stuff like
different
that.
topics.
Talk about editing, maybe another video, but there's much more to come from us. So stay in touch on Facebook, Instagram.
My account is Audita Harsono. You can follow me on my Instagram.
we will tag it in the videos as well, guys. But Alpha Minar Photography, like I said, it's all of us have live videos. We try and show what we do during the days in our shoots, so it's very interesting. We try and make it informative as well, and you can see how the life of a photographer is, or a videographer / instructor, which is quite interesting. So do follow us, do have a look, and like Jared said, we will try and get more meetups going and have more discussions about certain topics on it.
Yeah, check out my account. It's Alex Kidd Photo. Definitely, if you're interested in photography, reach out, send me a message on Instagram or email me. I'm always happy to answer some questions. If you guys want to hear more about certain topics, send me a message. Hopefully get to go take some photos sometime together.
Yeah, for sure. And my account is Wandering Herb. So come visit us at Manta.
Yeah, that's the best.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.